Pooh Shiesty's daddy been a rat since '09, and his son a mice since 2022.
Pooh Shiesty walked out of federal prison in October 2025. New music lined up, fresh money rolling in, a brand new chapter waiting. But just a few months later, the FBI kicked in the door and took him and his father into custody. And what showed up in those court documents, especially what his dad allegedly said, might flip this whole situation upside down. The meeting that was never really a meeting. Alright, let's rewind for a second. Because before you can even process what's happening now, before you understand why the internet is going crazy, before you figure out how Pooh Shiesty, a man who had everything going his way, ended up right back in federal custody, sitting in a cell block next to his own father, you need to understand one thing first. This wasn't random. This wasn't some heat-of-the-moment move. This wasn't a beef that spiraled overnight because somebody said the wrong thing. This was, allegedly, planned, thought out, coordinated, rehearsed. 9 people, multiple cities, one target, and a meeting that was never, not even for a second, meant to be real. Let's go back to January 10th, 2026. That's where this whole story really begins. 3 music industry professionals flew into Dallas that afternoon. They booked flights, packed bags, and headed to Texas like anyone does when business calls out of town. Because as far as they knew, that's exactly what this was. A scheduled sit-down with a rapper to talk contract terms. Normal. Legit. The kind of meeting that happens in the music industry every single day. One of those 3 men was identified in federal paperwork only by his initials RD, but court records and reports confirmed those initials belonged to Gucci Mane, the man who built 1,017 records from the ground up into one of the most recognizable labels in Southern hip-hop. The same man who saw potential in a young Memphis rapper and decided to take that chance. The same man who signed Pooh Shiesty when he was barely 20 and gave him the platform that helped turn him into a star. And that same artist, the one he believed in, was the one who arranged this meeting. Pooh Shiesty had been signed to 1,017 records since around 2021. He had hits, real fan loyalty, a name that carried weight in the culture, and when he got out of prison in October 2025, the lane was still open. The spotlight was still there. People were watching to see what he'd do with that second chance. But he wasn't happy with his contract. He wanted out. And whatever that disagreement was, however long it had been building, federal prosecutors now say it escalated into one of the boldest, most calculated armed robberies in recent hip-hop history. The 3 men arrived at a studio off Dallas Parkway that afternoon. When they got there, the place was still closed. So they did what anyone would do. When they're early, they grabbed some liquor, came back, got comfortable, and waited. They were businessmen in Dallas for a business meeting. They had 0 reason to feel uneasy, and absolutely no idea that by 3:43 p.m., everything was about to flip upside down.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this was disguised as a traditional business meeting inside a recording studio, but then it turned into an ambush.
An ambush. That's really the only word for it. Because while Gucci Mane and his associates sat inside that studio thinking they were about to have a professional conversation, 9 people were closing in on that building with a plan already locked in. Some of them had driven all the way from Memphis, Tennessee, hours on the road just to be there. Their movements were coordinated across multiple cities. Nothing about this was random. This was organized. And according to federal prosecutors, the man leading it all was Pooh Shiesty, Lontrell Williams Jr., named as the ringleader of the entire operation. The one who set up the meeting, the one who built the trap, the one who, prosecutors say, let frustration over a contract turn into a full-blown armed setup involving an AK-style pistol and 8 other co-conspirators inside a Dallas studio. But here's where it gets even heavier. This wasn't just Pooh, it allegedly involved his own father. Lontrell Williams, Sr., known in rap circles as Mob Boss, is accused of helping plan and carry out the entire situation from the start. He was reportedly on the phone with the studio owner multiple times earlier that day, helping lock in and confirm the session. Not as a concerned parent trying to stop anything, but as an active participant. Surveillance cameras even caught him outside the building before walking in at exactly 3:28 p.m.
Week, 9 individuals, including well-known musical artists, kidnapped and robbed at gunpoint numerous victims at a music studio in Dallas.
9 individuals. That's not coincidence. That's not random timing. That's a crew. A coordinated operation. That takes planning. That takes structure. That takes someone making a deliberate decision that an armed takeover was a solution to a contract dispute. Once inside, the victims were separated immediately. Gucci Mane was taken into the recording room. With him, Pooh Shiesty, his father, and Big 30, Rodney Wright Jr. The other two victims, identified as MM and BP, were held in the control room by the rest of the group. Then, according to the 3-2-page federal complaint, Pooh Shiesty pulled contract termination papers out of a bag and told Gucci Mane to sign them. Gucci refused. He looked at the paperwork, pushed back, argued, and the moment he said no, everything crossed a line that couldn't be undone. As alleged, Williams Jr. produced an AK-style pistol, not a small weapon, not something subtle. An AK-style pistol pointed directly at Gucci Mane's head. Pooh told him to sign again, and forced one of the victims to sign a release from the recording contract at gunpoint. Gucci signed. What other option was there? A gun in his face. 8 armed men inside the building. His people held in another room. He signed under pressure. Then Pooh handed the paperwork to his father to check. His dad looked it over and pointed out something was missing the date, so Gucci was forced to add that too. Big 30 then pulled out his phone and recorded Gucci Mane stating out loud on video that he was releasing Pooh Shiesty from the contract documented at gunpoint. This wasn't chaos, this was procedure. Roles were assigned, steps were followed. Pooh held the weapon. His father reviewed documents. Big 30 recorded, and the rest of the crew handled the other victims in the control room. The feds say the group robbed the victims of expensive jewelry and cash, Rolex watches, jewelry, cash, a Louis Vuitton bag filled with more watches, AirPods, wallets with Apple AirTags, a 1017 chain, earrings, even Gucci Mane's wedding ring. According to someone claiming inside knowledge during a live stream, they even unscrewed the earrings directly from his ears. That's how far it went. One of the victims was actually choked. One victim was choked to the point of nearly losing consciousness. The complaint includes photos, scratches on the neck, marks on the wrists, real injuries, real violence. Big 30 reportedly blocked the studio door with his body. Nobody was leaving. At one point, Pooh allegedly pressed a firearm to another victim's head, directing them toward a specific exit. Victims later told investigators they believed they were going to be executed. Not threatened, executed. The entire takeover lasted until around 4:50 p.m. Then they fled. And just hours later, some of the same individuals were already on social media showing off what looked like stolen jewelry and watches, acting like they got away clean. They didn't. And in part 2, you'll see exactly why. Starting with the one piece of evidence nobody could have predicted would end up in a DOJ press release, the ankle monitor. Because there's a version of this story where maybe, just maybe, you could argue the evidence was shaky, circumstantial, that a strong defense could find loopholes. This is not that version. Because on January 10th, 2026, the same day this alleged 9-person armed takeover happened, Pooh Shiesty was wearing a GPS ankle monitor, a device placed on him by the federal government as part of his supervised release. It tracked his movements, logged his location, sent data in real time. He allegedly carried out this entire situation with a federal tracking device strapped to his ankle. When he was released in October 2025, after serving about 3 years of a 6-3-month sentence, he wasn't fully free. He was placed on supervised release, including home confinement in Dallas. And the rules were simple. Do not commit another federal crime. Do not possess a firearm. 2 rules. That's it. And prosecutors say he broke both at the same time in the same room. Home confinement. The U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Texas said it clearly on camera in front of the country.
As alleged for a prior firearms conspiracy charge and conviction out of the Southern District of...
He had already done time before. He knew exactly how federal cases are built and how careers get destroyed. And still, here we are. When the DOJ unsealed the complaint and listed the evidence, the very first item mentioned was something so shocking that once it hit the internet, everything stopped.
Electronic monitoring data placing Williams Jr.
his ankle monitor data
at the offense location, which would put him in violation of his home detention conditions.
The very device meant to track his movements placed him at the exact Dallas studio at the exact time the takeover happened. No snitch needed. No one had to flip. His own ankle monitor walked him straight into that crime scene and reported everything in real time. And when that clip of the U.S. attorney reading it out loud started going viral,
Electronic monitoring data placing Williams Jr. at the offense location.
The reaction said everything.
Oh my God. They basically said it had the ankle monitor on.
The ankle monitor was on during the robbery. Let that sink in for a second. This is someone who already served federal time, sat in those facilities, surrounded by people who went down on way less evidence. Someone who knew exactly how federal cases are built, how airtight they get. And after all of that, the move allegedly was to walk into a kidnapping and robbery with a live government GPS tracker strapped to his ankle. But that ankle monitor? That was just the beginning. The evidence list didn't stop there, not even close. Cell phone records and license plate reader data mapped out coordinated travel from Memphis, Tennessee, all the way to Dallas, Texas, where their phones were when they moved, the routes they took, every tower ping, every plate scan time-stamped and stored. Rental car records confirmed Williams Sr. rented a vehicle that was used by the group. His own father rented the car. Lontrell Williams Sr., now charged as a co-conspirator, put his name on a Hertz rental agreement for a white Buick Enclave used to get the group from Memphis to Dallas. That's not a small detail that's documented pre-planning. He didn't just show up. He allegedly helped organize transportation for 9 armed individuals across state lines. Then there's surveillance. The studio had cameras. A nearby Staples had cameras. The hotel, where several suspects stayed afterward, had cameras. Footage from all 3 locations was collected and reviewed by federal investigators. Every angle, every timestamp, all of it now sitting in a federal case file. Latent fingerprints recovered inside the studio matched at least 2 defendants. Someone touched something and left proof behind. Physical, forensic, direct evidence tying people to that room.
Media posts by defendants displaying what appears to be stolen property just in the days following the offense.
They posted the stolen jewelry on social media within hours on their own verified accounts. With their own names attached, screenshots of those posts are now exhibits inside the 3-2-page federal complaint. They literally documented themselves with the stolen items and handed that evidence straight to prosecutors. Greyhound records also confirm multiple defendants traveled from Dallas back to Memphis the very next day. They took the Greyhound home. Real, traceable, federally subpoenaed bus tickets. Dallas to Memphis, morning after the robbery. This case? It's built on evidence. The defendants essentially provided themselves step by step. Now this is where the conversation online starts to shift. Because with all that evidence laid out, people immediately started asking one question: who told? And in hip-hop, that question usually points in one direction. But here's the reality. As one of the main victims, Gucci Mane identified Pooh Shiesty, his father, and Big 30 by name, appearance, and even through verified Instagram accounts during the investigation. That's not snitching. That's a victim cooperating in a case where someone allegedly pointed an AK at his head and took his wedding ring. But the internet doesn't always separate legal facts from street narratives.
Sound like Gucci cooperated. You sound like the victim. Gucci was a victim and gave his testimony.
It sounded like Gucci cooperated. It sounded like the victim spoke. Gucci Mane reportedly addressed the speculation himself, hopping on social media to deny any cooperation while still making it clear he's not the one to be tested. Anyone familiar with Gucci knows he doesn't throw statements like that around lightly.
Man, sometimes some of you Negroes do not deserve money and fame.
Lil Woody broke the situation down in a way that really hit people. That young dude came home, bro, and did NBA YoungBoy numbers. He got out, dropped music, and it worked. He was right back in the mix. People were rooting for that comeback. First song he dropped, they said he was going to flop. It shot straight to the top. They doubted him. He proved them wrong. He had momentum. He had attention. A real lane waiting for him. He had the cause, the lifestyle, everything he wanted. But the mindset never shifted. He had everything. But that last word, mindset, that's what really matters. Because you can hand someone money, success, second chances. If the mindset stays the same, none of it sticks. The boy went and did something reckless. Now he back in jail. The paperwork and the bigger picture. The morning after the arrests, April 2nd, 2026, while the news was still spreading and people were still processing that Pooh Shiesty was back in federal custody, This time with his father right beside him, Whack 100 stepped in. He called into DJ Academic's live stream, over 15,000 viewers watching live, and said he'd been sitting on something for about 18 months, waiting for the right moment. And now, he said that moment had come. Live on air, he sent documents to academics for everyone to see in real time. According to Whack, those papers were a federal plea agreement memorandum dated April 15th, 2009. And in that document, he claimed Lontrell Williams, Senior Pooh's father, agreed to provide substantial assistance to the federal government in exchange for a reduced sentence under Guideline 5K1. In the streets, that clause only means one thing.
Shiesty's daddy been a rat since '09 and his son a mice since 2022.
Whack didn't sugarcoat it. He said the father allegedly cooperated back in 2009 when Pooh Shiesty was just 8 or 9 years old. A child growing up in a household where, if those claims are true, his father had a cooperation deal tied to his case. Then Whack took it further. He alleged that Pooh himself had been cooperating since 2022, dating back to his federal firearms case in Florida. The case where Pooh pleaded guilty to one count had more serious charges dropped and received a lighter sentence than expected. Academics reportedly pulled up federal case files live on stream and said the documents look legit. Those two words, they spread everywhere. Instagram, X, YouTube, Facebook. Everybody had something to say. Now here's where we slow things down and separate facts from claims. Because in a story this loud, things get blurred fast. Whack 100 has made these same allegations before, multiple times, going back to at least February 2022. This isn't new, and every time, Pooh Shiesty's lawyer, Bradford Cohen, has responded the same way with a full denial. He's called the claims 100% fake news, idiotic, and completely false. His stance hasn't changed once. No cooperation, no deal, no proffer session, nothing. The defense in Pooh's 2021 case argued that he and his crew were actually the ones being targeted first, and that's why firearms were involved. The 6th 3-month sentence, according to the defense, came from legal strategy and evidence, not cooperation. And in January 2026, just weeks before the Dallas situation, Pooh even posted court paperwork on Instagram denying any cooperation. He stood on that publicly. As of April 3rd, 2026, no major outlet, AP, Rolling Stone, XXL, has independently confirmed Whack's 2009 claims. There is a 2009 Tennessee state case linked to a Lontrell Williams, but it doesn't mention any federal cooperation or 5K1.1 deal. And federal cooperation documents are often sealed. So right now, these are allegations. Explosive, viral, hard to ignore, but still unverified. And even with all that, there's an irony at the center of this story that's hard to ignore. Because when Pooh Shiesty walked out of prison in October 2025 and sat down for his first major interview with XXL, he talked about Gucci Mane, about watching Gucci come home from prison and completely rebuild himself. Discipline, fitness, focus, staying out of trouble, turning his life into something stable, becoming proof that you can come home and not go back.
Gucci came home and they motivated me too because I took notes.
The way Gucci came home, that motivated me too. I really took notes from that. He said Gucci truly woke up while he was inside, really changed, and that it sparked something in him too, that he was going to move differently, that prison shifted his mindset, that it would stick. How he switched it up, got in shape, got his mind right. I was watching all of that closely. He sat there and described Gucci as a blueprint, a real example of what someone can become when they genuinely commit to doing things differently after prison.
Shiesty is top 10 bag fumblers in the rap game. Every time this man gets a chance, he fumbles.
And then within 3 months of that interview, he allegedly walked into a Dallas studio, pulled out an AK-style pistol, and pointed it at the head of the same man he said inspired all of that, Gucci Mane, the one he said he studied, the one he said motivated him. Now, there's a gun in his face inside a studio over a contract. You can't script something like that. It's too cinematic, too heavy, too perfectly tragic to feel made up. This is real life. Now let's talk about where things actually stand. As of April 3rd, 2026, the case is still in its early stages. The 32-page criminal complaint was filed March 30th and unsealed on April 2nd. No trial date yet. no pleas entered. Every defendant is presumed innocent. That's the law, and it matters. But the evidence already listed, it's not light. We're talking ankle monitor data, cell phone records, license plate readers, a rental agreement in the father's name, surveillance footage from 3 different locations, fingerprints inside the studio, social media posts showing the stolen item, Greyhound records tracking their return trip, and victim identifications from people who knew the suspects by face, by name, and even by verified Instagram accounts. U.S. Attorney Ryan Raybould stated at the April 2nd press conference that each defendant could face up to life in prison under federal kidnapping law. Life. And for Pooh Shiesty, it's even more serious because prosecutors say this all happened while he was still under supervised release. That's a major factor in sentencing. It tells the court one thing clearly: the previous prison time didn't change the behavior. The FBI raid on the family home in Cordova, Tennessee went down at 6 a.m. on April 1st, 2026. Flashbangs were used for entry. Agents stayed inside for hours, removing computers, evidence bags. Every vehicle in the garage was searched. Whatever they were looking for, they have it now. And it's sitting in a federal evidence room in the Northern District of Texas, waiting for trial. At the center of it all, a father and son, both in custody, both charged, both potentially facing life in federal prison. The father accused of renting the vehicle, helping set up the studio, standing in the room, and reviewing the paperwork Gucci Mane was forced to sign at gunpoint. Now look at the timeline again. Pooh Shiesty was released in October 2025. His supervised release wasn't even set to end until April 11th, 2026. He was just months away from full freedom. No ankle monitor, no restrictions, no check-ins. Just a career, a fan base, a second chance. All he had to do was wait. Instead, prosecutors say he organized one of the most heavily documented kidnappings in recent memory and brought his father into it.
Pride and ego is our main enemy.
Pooh Shiesty had everything and lost it again. What happens next will unfold slowly inside a federal courtroom in Dallas. Cases like this, multiple defendants, multiple states, this much evidence can take a year or more before trial even begins. But the direction of this story, that was locked in the moment the ankle monitor logged his location inside that Dallas studio on January 10th, 2026. Now, there's only one real question left. How long? Click on one of the cards on your screen to watch more videos like this.